What's up, Michael? Welcome back to the show. It's great to have you here.
Thanks. Glad to be back.
Yes, we're also joined here by my dog, Frank, who's taking a very relaxing pose on the couch behind me. Yes.
Knocked out.
It's been a while since you've been on the pod. Um, in one word, how could you encapsulate Amazon PPC in 2024 so far?
Oh, it's been crazy to say the least. I mean, I think there's been a lot of changes in a short amount of time, and Amazon keeps throwing out stuff at us and keep having to adjust. But yeah, 2024 has been fun.
Fun and crazy. That sounds about right. How would you say this compares to previous years? How would you say it's changed over
Uh,
2023?
I would definitely have to use the term strategic. You definitely need to be more strategic in your role now and have a better handle on the data for sure.
Yeah, big time. And we're going to be getting into some of that data today, aren't we? Um, on the show today, you had a very unique situation that I think can be really applied globally. You had a client that you were working with closely. I would say, my impression is they were pushing really hard on Amazon, trying to redline high ACOS, trying to really go for market share and, BSR and like sort of those big top of market metrics, and then slammed on the brakes and said, let's optimize for profit. Is that how you would recall the situation?
Definitely. When we actually spoke about that with the client when they came over, because one of their situations that they said was, look, on our with our last agency, we wanted to focus on sales. We tried to push it as far as possible, which you're talking about all those other metrics. And they said that we kind of wanted to reset focus and look at profitability now. And that was kind of the reset marker for us.
Mhm. Those goals on Amazon are diametrically opposed typically.
Yes.
I was thinking about that. Can you optimize for top line? Meaning, can you have a single time frame, 30 days, a quarter, where you step on the gas for top line, as well as improve your profit percentages, your net profit percentage at the exact same time? And it seems so on Amazon, it's very unique because on Amazon, I think 9.9 out of 10 marketers would say, 10 out of 10 marketers, I think, would say, no, you can't do exactly this. You can't do the same actions and get both of those metrics to go in the direction you want. Like, you can't optimize for top line and bottom line profit at the exact same time on Amazon. Like, how do you see that situation?
I definitely agree. I think that they are definitely opposing metrics. For going for top line, then we're looking for a lot of other sales that are coming across, secondary, tertiary sales of other products. If we're looking for profitability, we're really looking for that one-to-one conversion, so that we can, that direct investment is able to be tracked directly and back into it. And yeah, to me, it doesn't match.
Yeah. As so, and I agree. Like, you're either stepping on the gas, going for volume, finding more clicks, and the way that I always think about it, and the way that I try to explain it is, imagine you got 10 more clicks today that you didn't get yesterday. So yesterday, maybe you had, 10 sales at an ACOS of 25%. If you got an extra 10 clicks today that you didn't get yesterday, those 10 clicks will inevitably convert differently than what your previous clicks did. So it's possible that you might get like 7 clicks that did nothing, 7 clicks that didn't convert at all. Those clicks are going to be at a worse ACOS. And then maybe you got 1 click that did really well. It has a better ACOS than you did historically, and you got a sale for it. That's fantastic for that 1 click. And then maybe you've got two more clicks that showed up at a high ACOS, but you think you can optimize over time. So, like, as soon as you add more traffic, it's going to throw your previous metrics for a loop. It's either going to convert better, convert worse, It is very rare that it's just one to one exactly the same. Oh wow, we got more sales at a better profit with these 10 clicks. That it's like black magic. You can't do that. Uh, so you need to sort of launch, get rid of stuff that is not in accordance with your goals, lean into more of what is with your goals. It's just this constant optimization process. And it's impossible to know for certain the next campaign I launch is going to give me a certain ACoS with a certain volume at a certain profitability. You have to launch and then polish your data, polish your campaigns to get it where you need it. So there's this concept of like, companies do want to scale on Amazon. They do want to, in a year from now, if they're doing $1 million in revenue and $200,000 in profit, a year from now, it's okay to say we want to be doing $2 million a year in sales at 225,000 profitability. Like could be fine. So that's a long-term goal. But could they say that in the short term? Could they do that, in a month? Or like, talk to us about how you think about setting long-term goals where you do want profit to go up and you do want revenue to go up, and then short-term goals where you sort of have to just pick one. Like, how do you process this? How do you walk people through this situation, this phenomenon on Amazon?
Sure. And it kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, where, the two goals are kind of opposing each other. If we're going to be investing in advertising, then we could get product sales from other things in our catalog and start to get additional total overall sales. But the profitability might not be there for that specific product. If we're okay with that and just looking at the profitability as a whole, then that's fine. But if we're talking about long-term or short-term goals, a lot of times it's more about profitability per product. So that's really what we did with this client in particular, is we looked and broke down the profitability per product. And we're finding that not everything was ringing true for them. So we're trying to bring the overall profitability up. So it was looking at each one of those blocks, trying to rebuild those blocks individually so that the entirety of the account was actually in a better spot. So now short-term goal was get everything right individually. Now long-term goal is going to be trying to expand sales back out.
Right. So well said, in the sense of, well, I thought you brought up a phenomenal point. Sometimes people will have a company-wide, profit goal for their Amazon products. And then it's possible that they have a hero product that does so much profit, and then it just gets mixed up with top, company-wide metrics. And then they're missing potentially, 40% of their catalog that runs at a negative, but you just have this top 5 products that are just absolutely crushing it and overshadowing it. So you'd say it's pretty important to do this sort of analysis on a per product basis.
Definitely. And that's one of the things that we step back into, because originally when we were having the conversation with the client, we were looking at profit and just moving the marker in general on an overall scale. Yeah, it was moving, but what were the dials that were really having it move in bigger chunks? And we had to break it all down and show the client individually by product and essentially saying to them, every product that we're advertising is not going to be a good product. So some of these we're going to need to pull off on, like say 80% of the budget that we're applying to it, and reapply it to something else, like say one of the hero products that you mentioned earlier, or we just don't advertise that product at all. Look back at maybe doing some SEO on it, try to get some organic built, trying to help with the BSR, and then supporting it a little bit more with advertising and pushing on that.
I think it's every time you're on the show and we get a chance to do deep dives on this stuff, I'm always impressed with sort of the thought process and how you explain these things, because it's just always so experienced, in the sense of you never want knee-jerk reactions in your Amazon marketing, because when you do knee-jerk reactions, you get a lot of volatility. It's hard to trace back your steps, and it's just a sort of like an immature way to operate on Amazon. So for example, let's say, hey, we've been optimizing for top line growth and we want to optimize for profit. Taking a moment to pause and just reviewing profitability by product so that you can come up with a really good plan is much better than just going into an account and just cutting the budgets in half. Like doing it a little bit more surgical. We'll get into that in just a second. Before we get into the strategy, let's actually talk about, on Amazon, they use this word net proceeds. A lot of Amazon marketers, I would say all of them, use the word profit. So really, we're just looking at a simple equation. How many sales did that product do minus the Amazon fees? So this is like your FBA fees, so on and so forth, minus the ad costs, minus the cost of goods equals profit or net proceeds. And that's it. So if you want to influence profit, you either have to increase sales faster than you increase your fees and ad costs and COGS, or you can reduce your COGS somehow, you can reduce your ad costs, or you can reduce your Amazon fees. The thing that, if you're listening to the show, the thing that we're influencing is the ad cost part of this equation. How do we make it such that we strategically reduce ad costs, or how do we make sales revenue go up faster than ad cost goes up? Now, to track this kind of thing, there's third-party tools that if we have subscriptions for here at AdBadger. We have a Seller Board subscription, we have a Merchant Spring subscription, but over the last few months, even, I would say months, this is, I think, less than a year old, Amazon added first-party tools to allow you to track this profit, and Amazon calls it net proceeds. What are your thoughts on sort of these first-party tools that Amazon has created? I mean, it's like the same data, right? Sales price minus Amazon expenses minus ad costs. You're left with minus cost of goods. You're left with net proceeds.
Right.
It's pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're seeing this a lot more with Amazon tacking on these sort of first-party analysis tools.
Definitely. First off, thank you earlier for the compliment. Appreciate that. Thank you very much. And then definitely like to see the data given from Amazon, because they've been so secretive. And even now that they're uncovering some of this, like the thing that we're talking about, it's kind of accessible in two different ways. You can download a report, or you can kind of get it through the inventory area. But a lot of times these things are like 2, 3, even 4 layers deep, where you need to know exactly where to look. But at least the data is available now, which is great.
Yeah. I'm going to put up a little image from, yes. So here's what it looks like inside Amazon. So this is a single product month. It's sort of showing me last 30 days, and I'm sort of seeing it on a weekly basis. I have like a partial week in here. I can also go back through for a longer time frame. And what's cool about this is you can see exactly what this is. The green is my sales. The red are my costs. And I can see this by week. And this line here is my net proceeds. So I'm looking at what my average sale price was, my units sold, my net units sold, the sales and the net sales, Amazon charges, sponsored products charge, referral fees, FBA fulfillment fees, inbound transportation charge, refunds, FBA disposal order fee, cost of goods, and then I'm left ultimately with net proceeds down at the bottom. So I did 30,000 in sales, I did 18,000 in net proceeds. Pretty cool. I can see my SKU economics, as it's called. I did an episode not too long ago with Elizabeth Green, where we talked about the new SKU economics report, which gives you all this information in a spreadsheet. So this is their graphical version. So this is it. It tells you the net proceeds. You can see your product sales minus all the costs, minus your ad spend, giving you your net proceeds. Pretty neat. This wasn't always in Amazon, but it is now. So props to Amazon for adding that report. So now for the first time ever, really, anyone can see their net profit, their profit per product. And what's interesting about this is Amazon, to the best of my knowledge, in their SKU economics data, does not give it to you on the marketplace level. You have to drill down per product. So when people are talking about optimizing for profit, would you recommend that they do it always on a per product basis, or look at it at the overall level? Would you say one is better than the other from a sort of a practices standpoint?
I think you need to understand every single lever. So I like to look at it on a per product basis, and I always kind of default back to that, even though I don't have those conversations a lot of times with clients. It goes back to what I tell every client, which is not every SKU is a good SKU to advertise.
Mm.
So with that in mind, where are the holes in your bucket? We definitely don't want to be having the money leak out as we're trying to fill it to get additional sales revenue. So that's one thing where we need to see, is there something that needs to be cut? And there's different scenarios, of course, that we can talk about. We're in launch phase, or maybe even if we're sunsetting a product, or we have a new version that just launched on a previously existing product. There's a ton of different reasons why we continue to have that run at a negative. But we definitely want to have as many as possible that are in the green.
Yeah, something really happened here. As we said at the start of the show, client was optimizing for top line for a long time, running at a high A cost, low profit environment, slamming on the brakes on that, shifting to a lower A cost, optimized for profit, and sort of seeing this trend. So the first question I have is, when you're given those situations, if someone's out there listening, they're like, all I heard was you have to bid more, you rank higher, and I'm running out of money. Like I'm running out of net negative for a couple different products. My first question to you is, when people go and they look at their SKU economics data inside Amazon, and by the way, we should mention where to get it inside Amazon. It's in the, where it is, manage all inventory. And then it's hidden. You have to click on the highlighted SKU on that manage all inventory. So yeah, I'm inside. I clicked manage all inventory. I have a list of all my inventory. If you click on the product title, you're taken to the detailed product page. You have to click on the SKU, which is so weird. It like really hides it from you. You click on the SKU on manage all inventory, and then you are taken to the manage my inventory. I'm sorry, you're taken to the SKU economics. Why'd they hide it?
Good question.
So anyway, let's say someone has done this and they discover that perhaps their company advertising, they're spending too much, they're burning all their profit, they're spending too much on ad costs. They look at this equation: sales revenue minus fees minus ad costs minus COGS equals profit. The lever that they can pull on right now is overall ad cost. They click on a couple of different products, they see their SKU economics, and they identify some things that are negative profit. They're losing money on. They're advertising hard, they're losing money on it. How do you go and take that information to the ads console and begin to optimize for profit? Talk to us about that process.
Yeah. Well, that brings up a ton of other questions with the client as well, too. It's like, are we selling at the right price point? So that opens up that conversation. But if we're just talking about just the advertising portion of it, it's really, well, what campaigns are working the best for that particular SKU? Because every SKU is going to work, it's going to have a better profitability ratio for different types of campaigns, and especially the life cycle of where the product is too. So if I'm really pushing on, say, a keyword campaign, a manual keyword campaign that's working great for me, then how can I dial that in? Are there things that I can start to peel out of there? Are there additional long tail that I can start to target off of that? Can I do some additional pivoting on some expansion campaigns? And really looking at that. Now, if I get to it where it's like, okay, when I start pushing on these, because that's, step one, if I start pushing on that and I'm seeing that our profitability starts to go down because we're spending more on advertising, then I need to pull back and then really self-adjust again and try to find that nice, happy medium where everything is working for the client. Profitability is good, sales are okay, and move forward from there and kind of let the client set the tone. What do they want to do?
How important is campaign structure to be able to optimize profitability on a per product basis?
Extremely important, because if you don't know what's happening with each one of your particular campaigns, then you're not going to know what levers to pull on. So definitely super, super important to have that right structure in place. Not only that, but having the right keyword sets in each one of those individual campaigns, whether you're targeting something specific or it's more of a general campaign that you're doing.
Right. So I'm envisioning, we've talked about campaign structure a good amount on this show. I'm envisioning good campaign structure practices, as in in a perfect world, all your products are by themselves in campaigns, because you're able to set budgets and control your targeting bids, your placement bids for that particular product at one point in time. Um, Good practices that way. So you're able to go in and look at that product's performance, and then it's true. Then you begin to have strategic conversations about, or you're looking at all the things that product is appearing for with a more strategic eye. So maybe you were trying to do some conquesting keywords, trying to make certain keywords work. And like, tell me what you saw. Did you see like high ACoS keywords, incredibly high ACoS keywords, low ACoS keywords, spending a certain amount, so like what levers are you pulling on? Are you shrinking the keyword list that this product is appearing for? Are you switching things over from broad to exact? Like, what are you doing to try to boost the profitability by reducing ad costs here?
Right. In this particular example, since everything was broken out specifically and we were looking at each thing on an individual SKU basis because that's the way the campaigns are set up. So I knew what levers I could pull, and I was finding that overall phrase was not working well for me. I'm just throwing that example out there because that was the one specifically for this case. So what do I do on that? Then I'm just pulling back on that lever. And it allows me to reinvest in other areas, like say the exact were working well for us. When those are converting, they're converting at a good ACoS. So I'm going to invest more there and see if there's more to give. If I'm getting more impressions here, can I convert more sales? Well, let's test that out. So taking away from one pot, putting into another pot, and seeing if we can raise or increase that profitability.
Yeah. So you're going in and you're just identifying the higher ACoS areas, and you're just trimming the fat. You're sort of looking at things with a more critical lens, whereas before we're trying to scale. So I imagine, there's going to be keywords that maybe do get sales, they're just at a high ACoS. Are you inclined to pause that or reduce bids on it?
Definitely reduce bids. And that's a multi-tier process. I'll continue reducing bids until we get to a good ACoS level or profitability level on that particular item. And then if there's something that just isn't working, then obviously it's pausing it up.
So this was mission accomplished. I think the profit hit its highest figures in the company's like history. If I were to go into like a wins channel on Slack, let me see what you wrote here. The company achieved a 41% profitability over the last 30 days, and every single product was profitable, meaning there was no unprofitable product in their entire stack, which is incredible. What was their historic profitability level? Like, what did they historically do? I mean, in the previous month, they were at 30%, but wasn't it like under 20 at some point in time, or in the teens?
It was hovering around 18 to 19 when you received the account.
Yeah, that's wild. So yeah, mission accomplished. So trimming the fat and sort of reducing things down. I guess the question becomes, well, I'm going to ask you one question, which is, why couldn't you improve profit in this way? Taking it from like 18% profitability to 40% profitability. Why couldn't you do that and boost revenue at the same time? Explain that concept for, it's a somewhat unique to Amazon.
Yeah.
So give me the limitations why that cannot be done on Amazon.
Well, a lot of times it has to do with, structure, when we talked about that earlier. So when we were targeting a lot of the keywords, they were mixed in. So I had to break all those particular items apart, like high volume keywords that were more categorically based, and then ones that were branded also went into their own separate bucket, and then things that were more pinpoint accurate for that specific product. So breaking that down, that was one of the levers that we had to pull on to make sure that everything was extrapolated correctly and targeting correctly. And really, yeah, like you said, Amazon's a unique phenomenon where the marketplace doesn't work like the natural market out there. Since you're trapped in a bubble and you're really competing with a lot of times, much lower priced items, it's like, how do you sell and in this case, it was more premium price point item. How do you sell that against things that are, a third the cost or even a quarter of the cost? Well, it's relying on the things that make this product sell in the first place, which are just the quality of the good itself, and then pushing on those levers. So making sure that we're targeting everything that's aligned with that. For example, those keywords that are aligned with that, high quality, such and such, or um, expert level, or authentic, or things of that nature that really help with pushing that narrative of high quality product.
Mhm. And as the profit went up this much, 40% profit gain, what happened to the revenue and the market share and the impression share over this time frame?
Yeah, so back to what I was talking about with the high volume keywords, we were pushing, or previous agency was pushing on a lot of those to get a lot of impression share and to get sales, one, two sales on these high volume keywords, super competitive keywords. So it was eroding profit like crazy. Those are great if you're trying to get top line and trying to grow top line, because you're trying to get any additional sale that you can, no matter kind of what the profitability is.
Mhm.
But in this case, yeah, since we pulled back on those, the profitability rose, but our overall sales kind of declined as well too. So it's really that conversation again with the client and telling them that usually that is going to be the case, and it was the case in this particular instance. And where are they comfortable? Are we wanting to run at a better profitability, or are we looking more at top line? So
Mhm.
it needs to be that honest conversation with that client.
Yeah. And what's cool now, the title of this episode is sort of Profit Reset. And I consider it a really cool event that has happened, that has transpired over the last few weeks, months for this particular advertising account. That, yes, the revenue was decreased. Yes, like the market share was decreased, but like profit has never been higher. And what's really cool about it is like, well, are you guys thinking like now is the time to scale? Where it's like, and we're going to do it a different way than we did in the past. We're going to be more strategic about it. We don't need to advertise every product at once. You don't need to scale every single product at once. There's potentially money freed up to try other things. Like, it seems like if it was a true reset, because like you're trying to step on the gas, you're trying to scale, you're trying to scale, you're trying to scale. ACOS is climbing, profitability evaporates, things become tense, you're at a boiling point, and it's just like, let's turn the temperature down. It seems like what's happened here, and I would argue that the client's more poised than ever to laser beam the dollars to where it can go to scale the most. Like, what is the conversation like now? Like, what are your next steps?
Yeah, definitely. Next steps is to try to grow that top line again, and try to keep the profitability above the ratio they wanted it to be at. Now, our goal marker was originally 20%, and I think it's raised since then. And that's a conversation that we need to go back into now that we are running at a lower overall sales volume. Um, are we going to start to focus and pinpoint out particular items? I know that there was even conversations on their side of maybe even looking at some items to sunset off of Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a bigger conversation, obviously. But right now, I know that I can invest the dollars back into the items that are the most profitable for me, and try to get additional sales off of that, because I have just more margin to give. So I'm looking at overall margin in addition to at the product level, and just trying to pinpoint where that budget can go and apply to.
Yeah. And you can do it with a lot more peace. Because, when things are riding high and you're redlining and you're trying to make it, happen at a really high ACOS, low profit environment, it could be pretty stressful, and it can almost be like, we need to fix this yesterday. But now when you've optimized for profit, it's just a really nice place to begin scaling. And I'm curious, I'm always trying to think on the show, like, would there be any, like, so sort of doing this profit reset, pull down of ad costs to boost profitability. Do you think there would be ever a time where you wouldn't want to do this? So maybe you're redlining across the board. Perhaps we just pull down the ad cost on some products, like maybe one product at a time, while continuing to sort of go hard on others. Like, what are your thoughts on doing it that way? Because we sort of did it across the board. We said we want to be profitable on every single individual product.
Right.
But perhaps another approach could have been, let's get profitable on, 10% of our products or something like that. How else do you think this could have gone? Or like, what other conditions, variables might one experience when doing this?
Definitely want to look back at where we're at, life cycle of the product itself, because if we have something that just launched, I don't want to really. I mean, it's not that I'm focusing on profitability as much there, but like I want to allow some additional leeway. So maybe, and that's that conversation for you to have with the client too, is like, okay, overall goal is 20% profitability, but since we're in launch stage number one, maybe it's a 10%, maybe it's a 5%, maybe we go negative for 30 days just to build up and, get that BSR in a good spot so we can have additional sales later on. But it's more of that investment model. And that's another conversation that I have a lot of times with the clients is a lot of times advertising is investment for us because we're not looking at this first 30 days. It's kind of like where we can position the product for beyond those 30 days. Mm-hmm. So that's really one of the things that I look at is what can we do with it and where can we go? So that's one situation. Another situation is if we had fierce competition come in and we don't have that ability to really look at losing that much market share, because if we do lose a ton of market share, we might make our product irrelevant. Well, that's a case we don't want it to happen. So if there's been a lot of increased competition, I would definitely say don't do it in that situation either. Profitability needs to kind of be a secondary marker at that point. So launch and high competition and new competition.
Well said. Well, I'm happy. I hope we gave something for people to think about and consider to do with individual products or their account as a whole, that you can improve the profitability of your business. And yes, it might come at a top line sacrifice, but it will have the benefit of boosting bottom line, which is fantastic. So all in all, it seems like this is going exactly the way that we'd want it. Thank you for sharing. I hope you have while the Amazon world might be crazy and hectic, I just hope you're enjoying the California palm trees, the perfect weather, all that good stuff.
Nothing to complain about. Yeah, Amazon keeps it fun with all their changes, so keep it fresh.
Big time. So the profit reset for an aggressive brand. This is great. Thanks so much for sharing. Have a good one, Michael, and everyone else. I'll see you next week here on the PPC Then podcast.